So we all know there are highly talented individuals on the one hand, and on the other hand, we all want working teams. Is it in a club or in a company? It doesn't really matter, but how do you really create a team spirit?
Well, that's basically maybe the challenge and the biggest challenge in, would I say, in my job, because the environment has changed. When I see, for example, now young boys wearing football shirts with a name, I have the feeling the younger generation become more and more fans also of the players and not only of the club. Like in my times, in the old times, we were supporting a club, and when a player left from this club, we were very angry on that player. We were disappointed. I was crying at home, and I didn't change the club. I did not follow this player anymore. I stayed with my club. Nowadays, I have the feeling that more and more younger fans become fans of a player and follow the player. If the player changes the club, they just buy a new shirt with a name on it, and it changes also the mindset of the player, because it can mean that the player is also a bit more self-centered, a bit more focused on himself, and nothing bad. It's just a description of the environment that can also have influence on the mindset of the player. So, and still it's our job as a coach to get the team spirit right, to get the rules right, to get the discipline right. But in this team, everybody wants to have a piece of that cake. I'm not so sure if that like team first, no matter what, exists for everybody. And everybody wants to have appreciation. Every one of my players wants to be important, wants to play a role, even if it might be a slightly smaller role than another player, but he wants to have a role and he wants to have a reward for it if he plays that role right. So I think you have to get that right, and making everyone aware of the importance of the team spirit and that we behave to certain rules, and that the rules apply to everyone is important. And on the other way, the top dogs of your team should also know and understand why it's important also that they step back and integrate themselves properly and with their heart and mindset and honestly to this group, because the group is always ready to support the superstar who scores all the time. They are always ready to sacrifice for the big superstars. There's no problem in it. But the problem exists when the superstar or the big stars don't give back to the group or are not respectful to the principles of the group. So this is what we are trying to build on a daily basis. I think you have to be very careful about it, because it can crack any moment.
I mean, you've worked with quite prominent stars. Looking back at your time at Paris,
yeah.
For example, you've told me backstage about Kylian Mbappé. You've worked with Neymar, like the end enemies, kind of. What was your biggest challenge with them?
First of all, they are very demanding. They are full of talent, like the most outstanding talents in the world in their positions. They are out in public. They have a huge standing. They have also this kind of ego that drives them. Everything is okay. You have to have a connection with them in team sport. Otherwise, you cannot convince them of your ideas. You cannot convince them of the values that you share and you want to share. But don't forget, there are also these silent superstars. Like you talk, of course, about these flashy names, and they deserve. But I had also like the privilege to work with these silent superstars, like in Dortmund, like İlkay Gündoğan, like Mkhitaryan. And then later in Paris with my captains, like Marquinhos and Thiago Silva. They're so important as a role model and the values that they represent and how they carry the team, that you can heavily rely on them, build a bond with them, and together with them you can try to explain to these names that you mentioned how important it is that they also give their positive feedback, that they are respectful to the group and what they can give to the group, and then the group is ready to to put them up to the
level.
highest levels, and they are ready to work in the shade, and they are ready to sacrifice maybe their own spotlight, and they are ready to put them into the spotlight. But it's a give and take, and I can just say, like also in my team in Chelsea, there were so many silent superstars, if you want to call it like this, like
I like the name of that.
Jorginho, like N'Golo Kante, who would never give an interview and would be like man of the match in every Champions League game he plays, like Kovacic, like again Thiago Silva, like Reece James, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, very humble guys, and to be very honest, I learned everything from them. They make me a better coach on a daily basis because you see how they work, you share your values, they make you more experienced, they make you better, and then it's a give and take.